Hello again, everyone. So you should be on the day 6 worksheet. I know that it says day 5 and day 6, but we are going to be doing them in the same class period today, just of how it ended up working out. So quick question. This is a little review from the last video you just watched and did some examples on, hopefully. Is the picture we've got here an example of rigid motion? Remember, rigid means that it does not change the size and shape of the picture. So looking at our two of them, does it look like it's rigid? Thinking. The answer should be no. This is in fact a dilation, which means the original picture is shrinking to get down to this next image. So it is not rigid motion because this shape changes size and gets smaller. That would be an appropriate answer to give for the quiz tomorrow. This section is going to talk about compositions of transformations. What that just means is making multiple transformations of the same object in one picture, which really, if you know how to do translations, reflections, and rotations, this is just doing more than one of them in the same problem. A little extra work, but nothing brand new. You can think of the word composition. If you're in art class, you guys might make a composition, which means different groupings of things into the same picture, or you might try and make a good composition, try and make it a nice looking picture with the different objects lined up a certain way. In math, a composition kind of means that. It's when two or more transformations are performed sequentially or in order in the same picture. Now that could be a translation, it could be a translation then a reflection, or a reflection then a rotation, any combination of two or more put together with one picture. Now you can see on this one at the top of your page, you've got a couple triangles going on here, which looks a little crazy, but we just wanted to show you an example of a composition. So our first one is A, and off to the left you've got some options for translation, reflection, rotation. So how could we get some of this stuff going on here? Well, first of all, how do I get from A to B? From A to B, is that a translation where it's just shifting over? Is it a reflection where it's flipped over? Or is it a rotation where it's turned over? That should be a reflection. So from A to B is a reflection. So you could put that in the left-hand part, that the reflection is A to B. Now, how do I get from B to C now? Because this is my composition. I'm going from A to B to C. Is this just shifting down? Is it flipping over a line? Or is it rotating again? Or not again, sorry. Is it rotating? Okay. And I would say that that is reflecting. It's kind of hard to tell with this triangle, but I don't think that the two sides are exactly the same. So I don't think you can call it a rotation. You know, it kind of looks like that, but this is really a reflection again. So this is a reflection composition. And then they ask us the question, what single transformation would produce object C from object A? In other words, how do I get from here to here, just like that arrow has? If I wanted to just do a straight shortcut, I didn't want to go A, B, C. Well, from A to C, it really isn't a reflection, because again, this long side doesn't end up on this same long side. So what does it do to get from A to C? It's not a translation, it's not just shifting, it's not flipping, it's turning. So this is just a rotation. And we'll even specify that it's 180 degrees. I guess I could have specified up here. This is over the y-axis reflection, and this is over the x-axis. So different pieces of the puzzle, different transformations, one big composition together. So let's do an example. First, we're starting off with our original point, so make sure you have that done correctly. So go ahead and do that now while I fill it out. X is at -6, -6. So -6 down -6. So this is X. Y is at -2, -1. And Z is at -2, -6. So let's connect all of our dots. And here's our original shape. And I'm actually going to put a little 1 here, just so I remember that that's my first shape that I'm starting off with. They tell me they want to translate x plus 7, y plus 4. Maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to look at your old notes if you're not sure what those mean. Remember, x controls either left or right. Y controls either up or down. Think of like the axes. If it's positive, that means it's going to the right. In fact, it's going right 7. Y plus anything means it's going up, and it'd be 4 in this case. So I'm going to use green for my next picture. So every single one of these 3 points has to move right 7, up 4. So let's start with x. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and up 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remember to label this appropriately. This is x prime. And same thing with z. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, up. Z prime. And y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there's y prime. And here's our second shape. And since we did it correctly, it looks like just a shift across the graph. It's not flipped, it's not turned. And then it asks for our specific coordinates. X prime is at 1, comma, negative 2. Y prime is at 5, comma, 3. And z prime is at 5, comma, negative 2. So make sure to include that in that as well. Last thing it asks us to do is to graph a second translation. This time we're taking all the prime points. Remember, you're doing it in order. You're not going back to number 1. You're staying with the second picture. And it says x minus 2, which hopefully you remember means, no, let's not do that there. Let's put it up here. Hopefully you remember that that means left 2, and y minus 6 means down 6. Okay, so let's do that. Starting with x prime, left 2, 1, 2, down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's x prime. Oops, sorry, double prime. So that's how you would pronounce this, by the way. You wouldn't say prime prime. You'd say double prime. So then y, we go 1, 2, to the left, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And z, left 1, 2, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oops, I forgot to label y double prime and z double prime. There we go. And then there's image number 3. Let's get all our points. X double prime is negative 1, negative 8. Y prime is 3, comma, negative 3. Hopefully you guys know how to name points. And then 3, comma, negative 8 for z double prime. Now last question, and this is really important. You're going to have a question like this just like that on your quiz tomorrow. What single transformation is the same as the composition of the 2 translations? In other words, if I didn't want to go from 1 to 2 to 3, how do I get from just 1 to 3? Well, let's look at the shapes themselves. Let's look at x and x double prime. How do I get from x to x double prime? Well, I have to go right and then down. How many do I have to go to the right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right 5, and looks like down 2. And if I check all my other points, they should do that. So y to y double prime, z to z double prime. Now let's put that in a rule. Remember, we have x comma y first with the little arrow. Right is positive, so that's x plus 5. Down is negative, so y minus 2. So that's what they would like for that problem. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. All right. This time, we're doing some rotation, which is some really good practice because rotations are kind of tricky. Remember, you can either turn the page itself, like actually rotate the page literally, kind of like this, to figure out the new points, or you can use the rules like we talked about before. Okay. Now, It says graph A, B, and C and rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise. So let's start off with our original points. We'll do it in blue. So 2, 2 is A, 3, 4 is B, and C is 0, 4. So we're getting a nice little triangle there. Boom. Okay. So now I need to rotate my picture over. Okay. So that means, let's see, if you need to look back at your rules, go ahead. That wouldn't be a bad idea. I believe it's x comma y goes to, let's see, y comma x. I know they switch spots. And then it should be that the first number is going to change its sign. So let's look at our points. We've got 2, 2, 3, 4, and 0, 4. So let's just start by switching all of the numbers, just like we practiced. So 2, 2 still stays 2, 2. 3, 4 is now 4, 3. And 0, 4 is now 4, 0. Okay, so that's the switching part that we talked about. Now we have to look at the first number and change all the signs to the opposite. So instead of 2, it's -2. Instead of 4, it's -4. And instead of 4, it's -4. Those are our new prime points already written up for us. So now we just got to plot them. So A prime is -2, 2. B prime is -4, 3. Oh, I got to label that. B prime. And C prime is 4, 0. And that looks pretty accurate. That looks like it's 90 degrees counterclockwise. Looks pretty good. Last thing we got to do, or second thing we have to do, I guess, is reflect the image over y equals -1. So we're throwing a lot of stuff together here. So please feel free to look back at your notes for these. That's what they're there for, because you've got a couple questions on the back where you're going to be doing this kind of stuff. Again, we're using the red image. We're not using the blue one anymore. Don't go back to the original. When you're doing a composition, you're going in order, 1 to 2 to 3. So the red image is now going to be reflected over y equals -1. Remember, this is kind of our special line. So on the y-axis, find -1 right here and draw a line that cuts through that number. Now don't go this way. That's drawing the y-axis. You got to go the opposite way. So here, poorly drawn, but here it is. There's a line of reflection. So this red triangle is going to flip over and end up over here. So let's start with C prime. That's one spot away over here. Jump the line. There's C double prime. A prime is 1, 2, 3 spots away on this side. Jump the line. It's got to be 1, 2, 3 spots away on that side. So there's A double prime. And B prime is 1, 2, 3, 4 spots away. Jump the line, it's got to be 1, 2, 3, 4 spots away. So there's B double prime. And it looks like a very nice reflection over that line for us. And we'll write in our numbers. A double prime is at -2, -4. B double prime is at -4, -5. And C double prime is at -4, -2. Boom. All the points have now been rotated and then reflected. So the remaining problems now on the back side are yours to do for your practice. You've got a couple where you have to do some transformations that are compositions like we just did. And then you've got some more basic ones where you just identify or determine if it's rigid motion. So some really, really good review for tomorrow's quiz. Please make sure you do that and ask for help. Okay, it doesn't do no good to stare at your paper if you don't ask for help. Please, please do so. Hopefully that helps you feel ready for the quiz, and I will see you guys on our next class day.